Today, we're going to have a masterclass on using single sign-on for staff users in Jadu Connect, which is a new feature. And joining us to run through it, we have Andy Green, product owner for Jadu Connect. So I'm just going to hand over to Andy to run the session, and then we'll pick up at the end if anyone's got any questions.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Why single sign-on? So Jadu released single sign-on using SAML in Jadu Connect back at the start of this year. And the benefits that it provides us is that we can have stronger security policies. So we can use the organization's centralized identity management, which will reduce password reuse and weak credentials from your users, because they'll have to use the organization's password policies. You can also incorporate multi-factor authentication policies at your identity provider. For a user, they get a seamless experience, so they have one set of credentials that they can use. So it'll be the credentials that they already know and already use in other systems can be used to sign into Connect. From an admin point of view, you can it's easier to manage your users. So if you've got users onboarding or offboarding, your IT teams can disable their account, and then that will automatically remove them or disable them from accessing Jadu Connect. You don't have to go and disable the user from Jadu Connect. So it simplifies that sort of process. And from your staff users, it's consistent. They use the same login method, makes it easier for them to remember how to log into these systems, because they might not use Connect every day. So Jadu Connect's single sign-on capabilities. I've tried to keep this high level and non-technical, but at some points I do have to go into the sort of technical terms. So it uses SAML 2.0, which is a markup language to provide secure credential sharing. Most, if not all, major identity providers support it, such as Azure, Microsoft Entra, Shibboleth, and many others out there support it. So if your identity provider supports it, you can use it with Jadu Connect. I've already sort of mentioned the seamless staff login. All the authentication flow is encrypted and secure. It's certificate-based, which is kind of the industry standard. So all the requests are signed and what have you. And what we can do is we can map our attributes from our central user record and use their email, first name and last name from your identity provider, such as Microsoft Entra, and use that to create your user account in Jadu Connect. If you've already got existing native accounts, which I'm sure that you already have, that's not a blocker to implementing single sign-on in Connect. You don't have to go and create new user accounts specifically linked to a single sign-on. You can take a native account and link it to a single sign-on account without having to recreate those users. And there really is a smooth transition from a native to a sort of SAML single sign-on login that your users can benefit from. So the identity providers that we specifically support, i.e. we have tested with all of these, are Microsoft Entra ID, both internal and external variations of it, Microsoft Azure, Shibboleth, and OneLogin. They're just because your identity provider might not be on this list doesn't mean that it won't work. It just means that we haven't actually tested with that provider. Because it's a standardized way of sharing credentials, then Connect should be able to integrate with other systems as well. So before I move into the demo, just want to give some sort of tips on how you might want to roll out single sign-on in Connect. First, hopefully you've all got UAT accounts, I would start at the UAT account for a small pilot group, just so you can validate that the single sign-on settings are working. On your UAT account, it can still be your corporate logins. We don't require you to have a separate login for a UAT account at your organization. The whole idea of sharing your credentials is that you can access many systems using the same credentials. So configure your UAT account as if it's with the sort of production settings. Test on a small pilot group. Keep at least one native admin account as a fallback, so we can then, you can roll it back if it doesn't work. You can remove the single sign-on capabilities on users if required. It just gives you that fallback to make any changes that are required. You don't want to be locked out. In terms of when you move to like the actual production accounts, enforce multi-factor authentication, so you can strengthen your security upstream. And when a new user logs into Connect using single sign-on, they will have an account created for them. Use the minimum permissions that they need as a starting point, and review and elevate those permissions as required. I don't give everybody admin access from the off. Give them bare minimum, and then enhance and elevate their permissions as required for their job role. Also, make sure you've got a clear strategy for documentation and communication to your users. I'm sure there's many hundreds of users in your organization, such as customer service agents, who log into Connect, who may be unfamiliar with these changes. Make sure you're able to provide guidance and support to those users. So they're just kind of my sort of tips on how to sort of implement single sign-on in your organization. So a lot of the information that I'm going through today is available in the user guide. So I'll just talk you through that. So we've got the Connect user guide. There's a section under Integrations Hub and SAML admin authentication. In here, it will tell you how to enable the single sign-on, some information about how your logins will change. And don't worry, I'm going to demo through all of this as well, but this is just so that you can refer back to it after the webinar. So it shows you how the expected behavior would be. It covers the things that you will need. So when you enable single sign-on in Connect, you're going to need help from your IT providers, because they'll need to set up an application in their identity provider, such as Entra. They'll need to create a new Entra application for Jadu Connect, and they'll be able to provide you with the sort of the URLs that are needed to sign in, sign out, any certificates that are required to sign the requests and what have you. So in here, we've got a checklist of things that you will need and from whom, and also some examples of the sort of things that you should be receiving for the different providers out there. It then goes on into more detail about each individual setting and what that entails and what that provides. I won't go through them all now, but there's many different settings that you can apply to SAML, and they're all covered within here. It also covers how matching works between your single sign-on account and your native Jadu Connect account. How you can manage users which are connected with single sign-on. How you can configure Central Connect to single sign-on together, which I'll show the demo of shortly. documents the changes of behavior that you can expect for managing your users. And the last few bits are configuring single logout. So when a user signs out of Connect, it will log them out of sort of Central as well and other places. Debug mode for when you are enabling this and you're trying to set it up. Debug mode provides more information within the logs and kind of some examples of the sort of information that you can expect. And then finally, some troubleshooting. So what the messages in the log actually mean and how you can solve that. So there's a number of sort of error messages that we've encountered and resolved, and they're documented here. So hopefully, the combination of all this user guide, there's a lot of content in there, but it should mean that you should be self-sufficient in configuring single sign-on and getting yourself up and running with it. So I'm now going to move into the demo. So the first thing I'm going to show you is what we mean by single sign-on. So Jadu has sort of two types of user account. We've got the native user account that uses the email address and password fields directly within the login page. So that would be your native account. That's not linked to sort of your organization single sign-on account or anywhere else. That's only used in Jadu Connect. But once SAML has been configured, you'll get a alternative sign-in method, and that allows us to sign in using our organization's account. In this case, it's set up to Microsoft Entra ID. So as a user, I'm going to click login with Microsoft Entra ID. That will now take me to the login page for Microsoft Entra. So pick my account and my password. I get the option of whether I want to stay signed in or not. Choose no on this one. And once I've done that, I'm now signed in using Microsoft Entra, my organization credentials. So as a user, I didn't have to have a native account. I can just sign in using that. So it's signing. There's not a lot more to show on that front. Where the real sort of power for this comes in is when we combine this with Jadu Central, because in Jadu Central we also have a user account native to Jadu Central, and we may have hooked it up to sign in with Jadu Connect, but there's still the credentials are still only within the Jadu ecosystem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how we can set it up so that a user can sign in to both Central Connect using their single sign-on credentials. So first thing I'm going to do is log into Central and create myself a new admin account. So this will be the admin account that we will link to the Jadu Connect account, which will then use single sign-on throughout the whole process. So let's go for that one. So just we'll give access to a few of these permissions. So I've now created a new user, Anthony Taylor. Let's just sign out and make sure that I can sign in with that user. Of course. So now signed in as that user. So I've now got a central user. What I now need to do is create a connect user. If I can remember what. So I'll choose a role, group, and this manager. So I've now got a new account in Connect for Anthony Taylor. So I've got one in Jadu Connect, one in Central. So if I now sign out of these, signed out as well. So go back to. So now I will now create the account at the in Microsoft, and it should link through. So need to create an account. Okay, so that's something good. Need to. So that's now sign me into Connect. And so I've now got an account in Central, Connect, and at the and at Microsoft. If I just sign out again, and I need to link my Central user to the Connect user, and then from that point on, I'll be able to sign into both systems simultaneously. So in here, I link my external account. So in here, we're going to link it to the Jadu Connect account. So, which I'm sure you've probably all done before. So now this account is linked to the Jadu Connect account. The Jadu Connect account is now linked to the Microsoft account, which means that if I now sign out of all of these, and signed out as well. Yeah, that's signed out as well. There we go. So if I go to Jadu Central, click sign in with Jadu Connect, click login with Microsoft Entra, use the I won't sign in on this one. So in here, I've now signed in to Jadu Central. If I click through to Connect, I'm also signed in to Connect. So I've now got single sign-on across all of these, sort of both the Central and the Connect applications, and my users' kind of seamless experience. So if I now sign out, so this also works with existing users. So although I set up a new admin in both Jadu Central and Connect and at Microsoft, that's kind of more just to show the process. It will work with your existing users. So if you've already got Central and Connect users linked, and then you add single sign-on into Connect, that will update and provide that single sign-on experience across for those existing users. One thing that we did have to do, which was when we came from Central to Connect, we did have to click this login with Microsoft Entra ID. Now we don't have to always do that. There we go. So within our integrations hub, which is where we set up the SAML integration, there's an option to bypass that additional Connect login page. So we can do bypass login page. And from here, sign out again. So if I go back to, so this time, if I try to log in, so it'll say sign in with Jadu Connect, and we're taken directly to the identity provider, Microsoft in this case. And so we're skipping that additional login page, that additional step to sort of say sign in with Microsoft. So you can bypass that login page. Sign out again. So the next thing that I'm going to show is I actually need to change the provider for. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I need to change the type provider that we're using from Microsoft over to Shibboleth to show the next thing. So what I'll do is I'll talk through the settings as I'm going through them. So under Settings, Integrations Hub, you will find SAML Admin Authentication. In here, you can is where we configure single sign-on. So the first thing that I'm going to do is rename the label so that users know what they're signing in with. So if you've got a specific name for your user accounts in your organization, that's where you would put that. So in Jadu's case, it might be sign in with Jadu AD, Active Directory. And that means something to people within Jadu, and they would understand that that's what they're signing in with. So yeah, it just allows you to name the label on those buttons. Save that. It's giving me a name. The service provider and identity provider vary depending on the identity provider that you're integrating with. So that's something that you need to discuss with your IT teams to understand what how this needs to be configured for your organization. So copy some of these out. So I need to update some certificates. Save that. And under the identity provider, need to update some of these URLs. Just turn that off for now. Not every identity provider supports single logout. Shibboleth or our version of Shibboleth doesn't. So that's optional. Let's save that. And then it's a couple more tabs that I need to set. So I need to. Okay. And then lastly, I need to set the matching attributes, which basically is where we get the email address, the first name and last name in order to create our accounts or match the account. So just update these. and then save that. So I've now converted it over to use a shibboleth, and I've already got an existing user in here who is, I think it was called Jason Lasso. So this is a native account at the moment. So it hasn't been linked up to single sign-on. So if I now sign in using this account, we can see how it will upgrade our native account to a single sign-on account. So I've now gone to Shibboleth, and so now signed in using Shibboleth as the identity provider. This user doesn't have access to go and see its user record. So I'm just going to sign out again. Sign in, Qteam user, find the Jason Lasso. And in here, we can see that this account is now being managed through the Shibboleth system. We've got an external ID on this. So we've upgraded that account to be a single sign-on account. And then, so we can rely on our users, or we can encourage our users to use single sign-on. And if they sign in using your organization's account, it will upgrade their native account so that they use that in future. But we're all users. We all know that people don't always do the things that we ask them to do. So what we can do is we can extract our external ID for our users from our identity provider and import them. So if we go under settings and system, we can do a data import of SAML user mappings, and this would allow us to bulk change our users so that they have to use single sign-in. Once a user has enabled single sign-in on their account, they can't use their native logins anymore. They have to go through the single sign-in process. By importing user mappings, we're effectively doing the same thing. We're updating those user accounts to use single sign-in. So as an example of this, I've got a user. I think it's on this page. So I've got James Marsh here. You can see this is a native user account because it's not linked to Shibboleth at this point. If I go to data import, import SAML user mappings, and within here, I've got a CSV file. It's a bit small, but it's basically a file which matches email addresses with the external ID for that user at the identity provider. So if I import that, the last page, so you can see it's queued for import. Still queued for import. Should hopefully, there we go. So it's now imported. I can view the details, and it will tell me the users that it's linked, along with the SAML ID that it's assigned to them. So I think it was James Marsh that I was looking at previously. So if I go into that user, it's now updated this user account, and that user will now have to log in using single sign-on and not with their previous credentials. So that's kind of enforcing it, but there might be situations where we actually need to roll back, and we don't want that user to, or that user can't use their single sign-on credentials for some reason. Rather than create them a new account, what we can do is we can come into their user record and delete the external ID. So the external ID is what links the Jadu account with the identity provider account. And if we save that, that user is now back to being a native user account. So if there's a situation where you need to roll back or make a user non-single sign-in again, you can just go in and update the external ID and remove that. And I think that kind of concludes sort of the demo of SAML staff admin single sign-on. I don't know if there's been any questions, Paul, or anything like that. But
yeah, we've had a handful of questions. So
okay.
So Brooke has asked. She said, "I've tested this in UAT and it works when a new user attempts to log in, works and creates them an account against their SAML ID. This shows us their email address. We're using Microsoft Azure as the identity provider. However, when I attempt to map a SAML ID to an existing Connect user, it doesn't appear to work. I'm not sure if there's any advice on troubleshooting this."
Yeah, so that's a really good point. So under the integrations hub, bear with me while it loads, the go into there. We've got well, there's two options. We can, well, first of all, you should enable debug. So debug mode will give us more verbose and detailed logs, which will tell you what the system's doing. And then under the log, you'll have basically a run through of what's happening. So if I can find one which didn't work, I can perhaps try and there. So here's one with an error in it. So that's basically saying that the attributes are missing in the response back from the identity provider. So in here, you'll have a series, or it will tell you what the problem is. And then in the user guide under the troubleshooting section, it's probably answered in there, where sort of most of the error messages, I think, are in there. So if in your case, if it's you're putting the external ID in manually onto that user record and it's not working, I'd expect the log to be saying that the user ID that they're receiving from the identity provider doesn't match that user. Don't know if I've got one in here where that's the case, but you would normally get the name ID. It's referred to as the name ID to say that this is the name ID that we've got, and then take that name ID and then update the user record with that, and then that user should be able to log in because it will then match.
Ben says, we have all users set up with Connect and Central accounts. If we move to SSO, can we bulk move user details, or will new admin need to be set for each user?
If I understand correctly, so you've already got a single sign-in between Central and Jadu Connect using the sign-in with Jadu Connect. You don't need to create any new admin users in either Central or Connect. What you can do is enable the single sign-on, SAML integration, encourage your users to sign in with your organization's single sign-on credentials, and that will iteratively update each user as they sign in. Or you can do the bulk import of user mappings to force them onto single sign-on.
Just got another final question popped up from David. It says, do the names and emails stay in sync with the SSO provider once set up?
Sorry, yes, I should have covered that. Yes, so any changes in the single sign-on provider, so somebody changes their name or an email address changes, that will be synced through. Yeah, next time they sign in, it will sync the records and pull down that updated information.
There's no more questions. Thank you, Andy, for that session. As always, if you have any suggestions for anything you'd like us to see covered in future masterclasses, then please let us know. Otherwise, we will see you next month, hopefully. Thank you all.
Thank you.